Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshifted.net/278 and email the show at pedalshift@pedalshifted.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello everybody and welcome to the 278th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. Really excited. This is the final edition. Well, I guess it's not the final. It's just the final of the recordings of the riding. Day 3 of the Tampa to Walt Disney World 2022 Extravaganza Bike Tour. And on this edition, look, I threw away a ton of audio. I won't be honest. I recorded a lot of me yammering and talking and giving you all sorts of additional Disney World history, which frankly, I think we did enough of last episode. It's probably really interesting for a Disney World podcast, but not for a bike touring podcast. Except I ended up recording a ton of interesting stuff about stealth opportunities, stealth camping opportunities. And that I thought was much more interesting for this show. Now, I say a lot eventually in this pod, but let me underscore it once again at the very top of this program. This is a terrible idea. Stealth camping at Disney World is a terrible idea. I go into detail why later in the ride. You'll hear all about it. But that said, it's possible if you're into terrible ideas and are okay with the consequences. Me, not so much, but thought it was interesting. So, off we go. All right, so the ride that we're going to go on is going to be a large circuit of the entire All-Star Resort campus. I don't even know what to call this. Now, the interesting thing, and the thing that I think I'm kind of like a little excited about is, as I mentioned last week, as for you all, yesterday for me, one of them is actually closed. Now, the question will be, can I find a way to get back there in a way that I'm not crossing any signed paths in any way, shape, or form? Just to kind of see if I can cycle around a little bit. I do not want to risk the rest of my stay, however, so I'm not going to do anything dumb. One of the things that I have heard over the years is if you really violate rules at a Disney park, regardless of where you're at in the world, you can get what they call trespassed in shorthand. I guess that's the internal term. And what basically they say is that if you're in a place where you're not supposed to be and you're really egregious about it, it's trespassing, just like any other place. But the thing is that I guess in the state of Florida, and perhaps actually it's probably true in a lot of places in the United States, you can be legally, once you've trespassed, you can be legally banned from coming back on those properties forever or for however long they want to, quote, trespass you. That is not something I'd like to do because, as I mentioned, I'd like to, from time to time, come down here. So I'm not going to do anything stupid. But I will try to do a little bit of exploring and check in with you from time to time as I see interesting things and whatnot. Again, the Disney theme elements of this may not necessarily be everyone's cup of tea, but I will certainly mention them because that's just like how I mentioned turtles when I go by them on the C&O, I'm going to mention some of the Disney stuff that's of interest around here. So, let's get going. I think I'm going to try to stick to lesser traveled areas, so not by the pools or anything like that. I'm also going to try to stay on the wider paths, which is where some of the utility vehicles stand, and also the roads around here with parking lots. I'm not going to track this on Ride with GPS at all. Largely because I'm just going to be moving around. in the All-Star Movies area, particularly the Mighty Ducks area, which is super cool. There's huge, how I should describe these. So all of these hotels are sort of built the same way. They're kind of classic, what are they, 3-level structures. But they all are sort of skinned with different themes. And this is the same situation that they do for some of the other resorts as well. I'm sure it's a cost-cutting measure. You know, if you build it right once, or you have a system, it works out really well for you. Stick with it. But anyways, so for instance, the movies theme are basically Disney movies, and one of them is the Love Bug, the one I'm staying at. Old 70s movie, and I think they remade it, but I didn't see the remake. And then this one that I'm going by right now is the Mighty Ducks, classic hockey. That's kind of cool. I almost wish I was here. This is more my speed. It's got its own pool and everything too. The cool part about that is there was a locker room, and yesterday I was starting to get to the point where I was like, I just need a shower. I'm very happy to sit here at the bar here at the end, but I really need a shower more than I need anything else. And so I actually grabbed a towel from the pool. One of the shower stalls was built for folks with disabilities, so I was able to get it in there. And then all of a sudden I was all set to take a shower, and I was like, okay, good. If my room's not done, I can just pack up all my stuff and then go from there. Morning. And then literally right then my room was ready, so I packed everything up back on the bike and went up. So that saved myself from myself. We are now in the All-Star Movies area, and I'm in the busy section, which is probably not a great idea. I'm gonna wait for this gentleman to go by. Yeah. So as a movie-themed one, or excuse me, a music-themed one, it is not by artist, it is by musical type. I am now reminded. Going by the Calypso-themed one. I've been trained well on the C&O and other crowded urban paths. So, pretty good. Very fascinating how nobody seems to be batting an eye. I really was expecting there to be a lot of question marks around all of this. Okay, so I'm on the opposite side. Still, I'm at the edge of Calypso and Jazz. Jazz has a bunch of silhouetted jazz players and music notes all along the side of it. That's kind of cool. And then, okay, so we're at the edge of the All-Star Sports Resort, and it is very, very much closed off. This is not going to happen. Too bad. They have those bicycle rack gates blocking the entire resort. A place like this was shut down, for a large portion of COVID, months, in fact. Less so here than in California. But as a result, they chose to shut down certain resorts for extended periods of time, even though they were reopened. And this is no different. Oh, this is very well signed. Construction personnel only behind this point, cast member authorized only. Now, it is not sealed up tight as a drum, but if I went in there, I am certain I would get in trouble. Certain. And if the consequences weren't the possibility of me losing access to coming to these Disney parks like ever again, maybe I would give it a shot and play stupid tourist. But yeah, nah, sorry folks. It would have been really cool though to have been able to bike back in there, because there are no people in there, and I could have really enjoyed a fun ride. But I'll just do the perimeter as it is right now. Now I'm in a much more interesting place. Okay, so I am at the very edge of the property right now, and you can see what this land really, quite frankly, should like without the development. And it is a dense forest. Here, I'm gonna go over here so I can try to describe this a little bit better. Oh, I am not familiar with much of this fauna, but flora. But I do see those southern pines. That is that an oak? Hold on, let's go over here and see. Nope, it is. Oh shoot, those leaves look more like a maple, but that's not a maple, I don't think. It's a 3 kind of piece leaf, and then a lot of ground cover that is much more like a I don't even know how to describe them. The big, sharp, pointy leaves. I mean, in the Northeast, these would be ferns, but here they're much more tropical. But dense. I mean, really interesting because if one hypothetically wanted to, it does look to be dry. But yeah, what an amazing stealth camp opportunity. Holy moly. Now, I am positive there are cameras everywhere on Disney property, just everywhere. But yeah, this would be, it's flat, it's very dense. You could go out 20 feet, and it does look like that there are hammock hangable trees back here. I do not recommend this, but in a hypothetical world, that would be doable here at this edge of the property. And what's interesting, again, this is all hypothetical. I would not do this, but at these resorts, you're not carded to use the pools like at some of the fancier ones, like the one I was at last night. So conceivably, if you went back here, this looks like where the buses get refurbed, Is that what I would call it? There's a big tent here for the Disney 5K. It looks like they may have started here, or at least Reg was here. You could come if you snuck all in. Oh, I'm seeing a couple cameras too. If you snuck in here and then did this under cover of night, especially, or actually, you know what? Be open and notorious. Come in during the day and then go to one of those locker rooms, as I had described was what I was going to settle on doing. Get yourself cleaned up, get your gear kind of a little more packed up, and you'd have to do this late. But yeah, you could kind of work your way, you could kind of deal with your gear over time. By the way, there were lockers in there. Now, I don't know if they check them at night or not, but you could conceivably even throw stuff in some of the Disney provided free lockers. But yeah, over time, you could just kind of get your stuff over and establish your stealth camp. And then, yeah, just bop in there at night. This is definitely a corner of the property that is not looked at very much at all. Yeah. Yeah, just in a hypo. Okay, and so then you're camping. You've got your shower. Disney transportation is not looked at. Like, they don't look at your IDs or anything like that. So you could conceivably have a camping Disney vacation for free. However, and the reason why, although this sounds like a fabulous adventure, the reason why it's a terrible idea, and I cannot emphasize enough for those Disney security that are listening to this podcast, why I will never do this, and I do not recommend it. I'm just pointing it out. Maybe I'm like one of those white hat hackers. Hey guys, you should be careful about this. Is you get caught, you get trespassed, as I talked about earlier. So that's no good. But always fun to kind of like find stealth camping opportunities. Yeah, I'm actually going to go. Now I'm going to explore. Where else can I explore? This has now become this is a bad idea, but stealth camping at the All-Star Resorts, Walt Disney World. It's very interesting because the concept of whether you could do it in the Fort Wilderness area off of one of the trails, I think that might be harder because, again, fairly camered up, and I don't know if the cover is as dense as that was. I mean, that was very much off of the property itself. So I know you could be in a place where you wouldn't be seen. I mean, no question. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case in other places. All right, so we're going to go up and around. I'm going to see how far down I can get here. Yeah, I can't go in there. Oh, interesting. Remember last week for you, yesterday for me? I was worried about this one particular security guy. They're sitting right at the parking lot and the entrance for the All-Star Sports Resort. They weren't worried about me. They were blocking future me from going in. All right. I'm gonna go. I'm back on that main trail. I'm doubling back on the large sidewalk where I came in. And All-Star Sports is the one that's the first one right by the check-in point. I don't think I want to go any further than that because since I don't think I have access, in fact, I know I don't. Interesting, more stealth camping opportunities that I'm seeing here. Again, cannot emphasize enough how much I think this is a bad idea. Just eyeballing. On the opposite side of the road from the resorts is a very dense area of foliage where you could disappear within 10 feet, 100%. Now, the trick with that is I think it would be much harder to do that in a casual way because, yeah, but your chances of being discovered or being, is it's got to be next to nothing. Next to nothing. It's interesting. I never thought about that. Oh, I thought I found a access point to the parking lot for All-Star Sports, and there are folks that are parked here, but they're obviously cast members working. But there is a big plastic bollard that says cast member and authorized vendor access only. So they have properly sealed this off in a way that would ensure that nobody like me would be able to get in. It's not that super exciting. I think the only thing that I think would be fun about going on this particular resort would be the fact that there would be no people and I could kind of, zoom in and around all the interior parts that it's just a little bit harder when a resort is full of folks, especially these days when it's so crowded. All right, so here's what we're going to do. For the remainder of our time together on this ride, we are going to explore if there are any other possible spots for stealth camping on that far side of the property. So just to paint the picture a little bit, I'm in front of the properties on the main trail. And what I want to do is I want to go back to the rear of the properties and see what else is going on. The area I identified was in between All-Star Sports and All-Star Music. So I'm going to start by going back there and seeing what the possibilities are. If there's another similar spot between All-Star Music and All-Star Movies, which is where I'm standing. Yeah, one thing I'll say is that the fact that I've gone by Disney security several times on a bike is a great indicator that I am not the first person to have had a bike in this area. I mean, first of all, we know that because we saw that video from Alex, but I just can't believe that I'm the first person to have biked into a Disney resort. And I think it was on the preview episode that I posited the possibility that I was. There's just no way. I mean, I'm sorry. Just because there isn't anything on the internet doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It was nice to think about that for half a second, though. All right, so as I mentioned, we're now working our way back to the far more interesting gambit of, are there other stealth camping opportunities? This is the rock and roll section, I assume. because there are guitars and vinyl. Okay, so I am back here on the edge. This is by, it's the Rock Inn section. INN, get it? Okay, so I am now, this is interesting. So I am now turning onto the sidewalk because the parking lot area has now ended. That's where I was looking before. Now I am in the country section. There is a retention pond. And alligators and snakes are in the area, according to the sign here, which, hi, Florida. So maybe not the best area, but is behind the country section. It's very deeply wooded. But there is that retention pond. So you can't get around. You can get around it at that one point. But yeah, do you really want to be near a body of water in Central Florida? I'm not so sure. Okay, so we are now fully into the All-Star Music Resort again, which we were in briefly before. But we're at the back, so I'm going to check to see if there are other opportunities. Okay. I'm now circling around. Wow, they got these, as I mentioned, they have these big kind of, for each theme, they have these enormous, I don't know how to describe them. Well, themes. And for country, these enormous, what are they, 20-foot tall boots? Country, cowboy boots? Pretty wild. And banjos and fiddles. That's kind of cool. I mean, is it cheesy? Of course it's cheesy, but kids would love it. Okay. So again in the rear. Oh, man. Okay. So back here, oh no, that retention pond is still there. It's almost like that they did that on purpose. There's a very accessible fence. Oh, I'm gonna go to the back corner here. We couldn't be more remote within this resort. Oh, well, this is interesting. Okay, yeah. Here in building 6, there is a very, very generous stealth camping opportunity, which I, again, could not want to use less, but fascinating that that's the kind of thing that could be here. Now, near these buildings, do you think that there are cameras just everywhere? Of course there are. But, you wouldn't have to go out more than 10, 20 feet to be able to hunker down. And it's away from that retention pond. So, do not bring food back there would be my recommendation. If you went against my earlier recommendation and did this anyways. But it is fascinating, just like where are the hidden spots in very big places, right? All right. We're going to start to wrap this version of, or this portion of the pod up by working our way back to the All-Star Movies Resort, which is right here. Oh no, this is the Broadway section of the of the music resort. Top hats and canes, posters for Broadway shows, Frozen, Mary Poppins, Lion King, Aladdin, all Disney properties. Shocking. A big Broadway marquee. Huh. That's clever. And by the way, the road here, it looks like a New York City street with or I think it's meant to mimic it. The dotted line. All right. I have now managed to get myself quasi-lost. Oh, no, I'm not, because I'm headed straight back to my resort. No cutouts to get back into the parking lot, because they aren't expecting people like me. Ooh, let's go to the back. All right, I lied. We're going to do one more thing. Okay, so we're in the parking lot area between All-Star Music and Movies. So just like we found plenty of really interesting camping opportunities between the other two, I bet you this is going to be good too. And boy, I will tell you what, there's very few lights over here, but it does feel like it's built, more retention, more waterways. Yeah, can't do it. Well, it does look like there would be a way to access it from the All-Star Music side. There'd be a way to get back in there, and even more so if you would be comfortable being near a body of water, which frankly, I mean, I know they put up those signs. I think that's more to scare people away from these bodies of water. You'd be even further away. There's even more distance between you and any potential set of eyes on you. Fascinating. Yeah, again, do not recommend. Will not be doing it myself. Just always interesting to see opportunities. I think I'd mentioned before that it's kind of an interesting bit of training, to kind of like just go around and try to find opportunities in places that you're not thinking about. So this entire parking lot in between the two resorts, it looks like it's covered on the rear there, on the rear end, with a body of water. Until you get to here. Well, we have now found, interesting. So they're painting a baseball themed goofy, clearly for the All-Star Sports Resort. But like literally right here, there's I'm in a parking spot. It's at the edge of that body of water. I mean, you just could go right out in here, and all of the engineering folks are all right here. I can't imagine that there's camera coverage at this point. Yeah, interesting. Or I'm completely wrong, and literally every corner of every piece of Disney property is, with microphones listening to me. Folks, don't do this. It's a terrible idea. Is it feasible? Is it possible? Absolutely. And what's crazy is you'd be 20 feet off. You're in the far corner of the parking lot, so really nobody's going to see you pop in. The only question mark is that dry? I just peeked in. It's so dense. There is definitely snakes. There are definitely snakes back there. So I mean, you have issues with wildlife for sure. However, a little hammock action. Only go back there for sleeping at night. I could pull it off. Oh hey, I just noticed. I'm literally at my building. So, which is fascinating considering I just found a great stealth camping spot. All right, well, that is we're gonna have this segment end right here. Thank you for joining what turned out to be a really fascinating exercise in stealth camping spotting in a place that, again, could not recommend less. However, just fun and interesting that you can find things in places like that. Statistics. Stealth camping opportunities spotted. 4 more? No. Terrible ideas contained within this show. Too many to count. Number of times I underscored that you shouldn't do this. Too many to count. Flats, 0. Coming up, video on how to ride into Walt Disney World property and how it worked is coming within a week or two from the drop of this particular show. Next week is the final entry of the Best of Pedalshift featuring the 2019 ride from DC to Cincinnati, so stick around for that. The week after that, takeaways from this here Disney tour, plus tips on what to do if you happen to lose your ID and need to fly in the middle of a bike tour, because it happened to me. And I have tips. And finally, a bonus. It's the preview of my next tour, which will come to you the following week from that. What?
And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours like this fall's upcoming bike tour. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lane, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadas, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha Lebon, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presso, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Azuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, and new to the society, Ryan Patterson. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift Project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.